Hi, this is Justin Curian from Reclaiming Christendom. Today, my friend and colleague John Davidson, who's a senior editor at The Federalist, an expert on politics, and a journalist for over 20 years, will tell you about some of the troubling results in the recent elections from NYC to Virginia and beyond, and the lack of Christian morality seen in the results. He'll also tell you a tale about what is going on currently in Los Angeles down on Figueroa Street. Please listen ahead.
Hey everyone, this is John Davidson with Reclaiming Christendom, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the elections that we just had this week here in the United States. It was an off-year election, but there was some pretty important races that I think reveal a drift, a cultural and societal drift away from Christian morality and really American values that have really always been a part of our country and our culture here, and reflected in some of these high profile races in which Democrats were successful. Everyone, of course, knows about the New York City mayor's race, in which Zohran Mamdani, a foreign born Ugandan, dual citizen of Uganda and the United States, who is an open communist, who's also a Muslim, was victorious. He's now the mayor of New York City. As crazy as that may seem. Uh, it's not so much, though, Mamdani's Islamic faith that's the problem. He's not the sort of Muslim that we see often in British politics, or increasingly in British politics. He's more of a sort of third world socialist, and he has embraced the kind of extreme left-wing policies and political program that we see on the far left of the Democratic Party. So he's, pro transgender rights and gender affirming care for children. He's extremely socialist and even communist by his own admission, wanting to have government run grocery stores and government run free public transit, government paid funded housing. And he's also a racist in the sense that he has called for specifically higher taxes on whiter neighborhoods in New York, adopting the ideology that there's sort of a white guilt that must be expiated, that the white population of New York owes the minority populations something. And this is a deeply un-American and really anti-Christian idea, sorting people out by their race, by their ethnicity, really goes against the teachings of Imago Dei that have always been part of Christendom, that sees every person as equal in the eyes of God and indeed equal before the law, as far as that is concerned. So that was New York, but I also wanted to mention this is a pattern around the country with some of these Democrat victories this week. In Virginia, the Attorney General's race featured a Democrat candidate, Jay Jones, who infamously was had these private messages leaked where he was calling for putting a bullet in the head of a Republican opponent and hoping that that Republican opponent's children would die in their mother's arms in order to change their political views and their policy views. This was really vile stuff, and it really dominated the news cycle for a couple of weeks at a certain point in the election last month. Amazingly, this guy, Jones, won. So he's now the Attorney General of Virginia. I think it shows kind of where left-wing ideology kind of steps out into the void, totally divorced from any sense of traditional Christian morality or the traditional bounds of what is politically acceptable in our American culture, in our political discourse. This is a sort of a new low point for the left. But we saw it months ago, just 2 months ago, with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Many thousands of Democrats and people on the left celebrated that and said that Charlie had it coming and that he deserved to die, and they were happy he was murdered in front of his wife and children. That's the kind of rhetoric that is. It's not just sort of fringe people on the internet. This is major political candidates of the Democratic Party have embraced this sort of thinking and this sort of rhetoric. And I bring that up to say that these policies and this rhetoric that we see among this rising generation of Democrats, left-wing Democrats, in some cases self-avowed communists and leftists, is really an example of where our politics is going when we are in a post-Christian situation, when we are rapidly de-Christianizing, we shouldn't expect our politics to retain the same moral framework that we've had for most of our history in this country, where we recognize the inherent dignity of each person. We recognize the inherent value of intact families. We recognize that we need a certain level of cultural cohesion in this country, and that we can't have things like mass immigration. The left, and increasingly the Democrat mainstream that's been captured by the left, rejects all those things. And I'll just give you one more example. There was a big piece in the New York Times last week about a section of Los Angeles that is become infamous for child prostitution and child sexual exploitation. And the reason is an area called Figueroa Street. I think I'm saying that right. But it's basically run by sex trafficking gangs. And the reason it has become such a problem now in Los Angeles is because of a bill that the Democrat California Assembly passed and was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, who's certainly running for president in 2028, that basically prevented the police from going to these parts of Los Angeles, especially this one street, and detaining people and making arrests based on suspicion of underage sex trafficking. They made that illegal for the police to do that. And so they tied the police's hands, and they did it based on these specious arguments about how it was disproportionately targeting, trans women and trans women of color, and that they should be able to sort of ply the sex trade on public streets in Los Angeles. This is crazy. Just a few years ago, this would have been considered totally out of bounds. It's now part of the mainstream of one of the major political parties in America. So it's important to sort of call this out and recognize it for what it is. And what it is the direction our politics are heading if we don't return to our Christian roots and our Christian morality that have been the foundation of the American Republic since our founding. So just some things to think about. Be sure to like this video and subscribe down below. And I'll see you next time on Reclaiming Christendom.